What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Crowded Lake, and today we are reading chapters 5 and 6 of Drowsy and Deceitful, written by me. If you'd like to check out the fic, please go in the description below, and we shall be doing that. In the description, there's a lot of things, and including a Google form where you could recommend future fan fictions for me to read. If you'd like to do that, please just put it in the Google form below, because I will read just about anything at this point. Besides, like, nasty stuff, because I don't know what to read anymore. Okay, so with that, let us move on to Chapter 5, Switchers, 1 week later. Patton kept asking to see Janus, while the others kept trying to stop him, trying to get him to relax. They all knew that if Patton saw Janus in his new state, he would freak. Within the last week, Janus has grown pale and too weak. His purple eye has begun to look more puffy and dark. He also became more stiff as his scales grew thicker. Logan was with them, taking care of him the most. Janus was in so much pain, but was too tired to even lift an arm. He also has been pretty touchy, which was normal for a human that is this tired. Although Logan has been in Janus's room for a week without leaving, and the others were starting to get worried for him as well. Patton, Virgil, Roman, Remus's point of view. They started off this morning by having pancakes together. The syrup was already all over Remus and Patton, as Virgil and Roman tried their best to keep their outfits syrup-free. While eating in the silence, Patton spoke up. "Hey, guys, we haven't seen Logan in a really long time. Is he still with Janus?" Everyone looked around at each other, not wanting to admit that Logan had been gone for that long, until Patton spoke up again. "I know you guys keep stopping me for some reason, but I really think I should check on them." Everyone once again stopped Patton, Remus taking his hand and dragging him back to his seat at the table. "Well, I do believe that they should be checked on. But I will do it. A brave prince such as I is very capable of such responsibility." Patton started to get notably frustrated and worried. "Going to check on Logan and Janus is not going to hinder my mental health or Thomas's. If anything, my constant stress and worrying over them is going to do them worse." Virgil then stepped into the scene. I guess you're right. We shouldn't have kept you from seeing them like that." Patton then turned around and started walking upstairs, only to be stopped by Remus once again. "Remus, let me go! I'm going to check on Janus." Remus then walked in front of Patton, so that he was facing Mr. Mustache. "Can I come with you?" Patton tilted his head in what looked like confusion. Roman just took the two by the hands, with him standing in the middle, and walked down the hallway to Janus's door, with Virgil looming behind a bit. "Okay, we should be quiet. We wouldn't want to disturb Janus." After speaking, Roman twisted the door handle open gently to find Janus on the ground in a mound of blankets under a huge lamp. His scales were more scaly looking. The human side of his face was bright red. Luckily, he was asleep, like he should be, so they would be of no disturbance as they were quiet. "Guys?" Patton trailed off, stepping back a bit. "I think we should get someone to help Janus." Well, lying underneath Janus was Logan, who was super pale. There were red marks on his forehead and very prominent eye bags. I could get Logan and take over then." "No!" Patton was cut off by Remus, who stepped in front of him. "Well, I would like to spend a day or two with Janus. I could help him. I'm not one for standing still, but I know him better than all of you combined. It wasn't as bad then, but he did have the same problem last year, and I helped him through it all by myself. So I would say that I am more than qualified." The three looked at each other and came to agreement before they all sighed and turned towards Remus. Virgil was the first to speak up. "Go ahead, Remus. I remember that Janus would cry and sleep more in the winter, but I always figured as a child that it was because he was cold-blooded." Roman then turned towards Janus and Logan. "Task 1 is to get the nerd out of here. Next task is to make sure that Janus is comfortable with Remus being here." Roman and Patton then went up to where the boys were sleeping. Patton, when I give you the signal, grab Logan, Roman or Janus, and I'll lift Janus up. Patton gave Roman a thumbs up as Roman started to do a countdown with his fingers. Then he stuck out his tongue as he reached down and picked up Janus. Patton rolled Logan to the other side of the pile of blankets so he could be easily picked up. Right before he was going to set him back down, though, Janus wrapped his arms around Roman and nuzzled his face into his stomach. Logan, you're warm. He mumbled from Roman's shirt. Roman slowly sat down on his bed and petted his head to keep him calm and from opening his eyes. Remus picked up Logan and cradled him in his arms, carrying him to the door. Roman looked up from where he was sitting, still petting Janus. I'm sorry, Remus. You could do it next time, okay? I don't want to bother him anymore. Remus nodded in agreement, shifting his arms from under Logan to help him hold the nerd better. At this time, Remus, Patton, and Logan and Virgil quietly left the room, leaving Janus and Roman on the bed. That is how it worked for weeks. They occupied each other while one person was watching Janus for a couple days to a week. The only difference between them and the first time Logan went is they checked on them more regularly and brought food, water, and things to do. Additionally, as the weeks went on, Janus started sleeping for 5 days at a time, waking up for 2 minutes only to fall asleep again. The sides made sure that Janus, along with each other, was feeling okay. Everything was doing fine. Until February. Chapter 6, Walking Trade-Off, February. Everyone, with the exception of Janus and Virgil, were in the dining room getting ready for dinner. Patton sat down, sitting down a plate piled with steaks for everyone. Everyone grabbed a steak off the plate, leaving a singular steak to bring to Virgil. They were scooping up potatoes and chatting when someone walked in. Janus! What are you doing in here? You should be in bed! Patton jumped up to Janus. Patton, I have been in bed for the last 3 or 4 months. I need to get up and walk around at some point. Janus yelled at Patton. He jumped back. It also seemed the exhaustion from the yelling had caught up to Janus because he stumbled a bit, then collapsed on the counter, putting his weight on it. That is when Logan spoke up. Patton, you have to step back from Janus. Please. He looked scared and hurt, but he did step back to Logan's requests. Janus, would you like me to walk with you? Janus looked up from the counter. He had his head and nodded. All right. Would you like to walk yourself? Or would you like me to hold your arm? Janus looked up, his eyes glossy. I would like to hold on to your arm. Logan put his arm for Janus to hold on to, and they slowly walked out of the kitchen. Janus, where is Virgil? Virgil is still in my room. I had woken and he was asleep. But I couldn't lay down any longer. I didn't want to wake him. Logan was searching for another question to ask to keep the conversation they were having going. Indeed, of making this a very weird, awkward, silent walk. Do you feel any less tired? Janus huffed and went on to talking. No. In fact, I am even more exhausted than I remember. I just couldn't close my eyes. Well, I am glad you are doing what you feel is best for you. Janus smiled and leaned more onto Logan, resting his other hand on his shoulder for more support. Logan winced in response. Are you okay, Logan? Janus asked. Yes, I just have a bad shoulder. We can make our way back to the kitchen. I am sure Patton would be thrilled to walk with you. Janus nodded, and they started to head back to the kitchen. Hey, Patton? Patton turned around from where he was finishing the dishes. Yes, Logan? Logan huffed a bit and then helped Janus into the chair before speaking. I am sorry for keeping you from seeing Janus. It is just, I was worried about you and Thomas, and it's okay. I understand. I find it cute when you worry. But I miss Janus so much. Yeah, I kept you from him the last, I don't know how many months at this point, because you barely even care of yourself. I didn't want to make it a habit to take care of Janus all day, every day. Not to mention, I don't know how it would affect Thomas's mental state if you see Janus at his worst. I see. Once again, Logan was cut off, but this time with the warmth of an embrace from Patton. You don't need to explain yourself, but I should go back to the dishes. Logan caught Paddington's arm as he started to turn around. I'll handle the dishes. You spend time with Janus. Paddington's eyes went wide. Really, Logan? Thank you so much! On one condition. Take time to care for yourself. Paddington nodded and turned to help Janus walk to his bedroom. Paddington mouthed, "Thank you," once more, and helped Janus walk around a bit. It was about 15 minutes into the walk, and Janus practically was collapsing, even while holding on to Paddington. Well, Janus, you ready to head back into your room? Janus shook his head no while rubbing his cheek into Paddington's shoulder. I don't want you falling. Janus tried to stand up straight, only to fail, and end up leaning back onto Paddington. I don't want to go back to my room. Not now. I need a change of environment. Paddington looked down at Janus and started rubbing his arm. I guess you're right. How would you like to come to my room and stay there? Janus looked up at Paddington and stuck out his little snake tongue. Paddington, you need to take care of yourself too. Paddington continued to pet his arm. I know, everyone's been telling me that. But I could do that better if I know you're happy and safe. Janus rolled his eyes, but understood. Fine, but it better be warm in there. The two of them made it back to Paddington's room, and Paddington tried to lay Janus down on his bed, but he seemed to not like that. But it's still still for my back. I like my pile of scrap fabrics and blankets. Paddington thought for a second and snapped his fingers. On the ground by the window, his pile of blankets and scrap fabric and his heat lamp appeared. Paddington helped Janus wobble to his bed, and they both laid down. Janus lied on top of Paddington, letting the rising and falling of the dad's stomach comfort him, to assure him that he was safe and okay. With this, he slowly drifted off back into brumation. Paddington kept stroking Janus's hair to the beat of a song that kept playing in his head. It was in 3/4, so his hand was kind of doing a waltz on his head, dancing through his hairs. He watched as his hairs moved at the impact of his fingertips pushing in the opposite way. While he was asleep, Paddington stroked his thumb down Janus's scales. They were not slimy, but they felt like heaven on his skin. It was so soothing and had the most wonderful texture. As Paddington petted his scaled face, Janus breathed slowly and kept getting deeper and deeper in his slumber. In this moment, Paddington realized that self-care doesn't have to be a lonely activity. It can be letting yourself relax with someone you care about. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to join me for my next fanfic adventure and continue the story next week, the subscribe button is just down below, along with the Google form in the description, so that you can help pick out my next fanfiction. It's just a Google form. I'd really recommend you check it out. Thank you so much for listening, and much like Janus trying to walk, do your best.